Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this show on Sunday, December 8th, 2019. And before we get started here, Drew, I have to ask, what sort of cool stuff did you get to do in LA this week? I mean, I shoveled out the house 3 times in 6 days. And I want to point out that winter doesn't actually start till December 21st. So please tell me you got to do cool things in spite of the rain. You've had a lot of rain lately,
We
right?
have had a lot of rain, but it's actually a nice little, diversion. It's a nice excuse to stay inside, but I'm just trying to watch, as many things as I can before the end of the year, and we're going to get the Golden Globe nominations this week, so that should be interesting. But, just hanging out, enjoying the weather, and enjoying calling you as you come back from shoveling snow and are just out of breath. And
I'm old. What do you want from me? All right. No? Okay. Well, speaking of watching things, just last night, Nickelodeon ran SpongeBob the Musical. Again, I'm fascinated by the history of this show. I mean, it opened in Chicago back in June of 2016, got great reviews, and then didn't make it into New York for a year and a half because there were no theaters available. Or good musical theaters, right. I should stress here. And so it finally opens in December of 2017 and gets great reviews, but then is basically forced to close in September of 2018 because the building that the theater, the Palace Theater, in fact, it had the greatest house if you're a show that appeals to tourists. In fact, this was actually where Disney had Beauty and the Beast for years before they finally moved it to the Lunt-Fontanne across the way. But they had to leave the theater in September of 2018 because they're doing this weird project with the skyscraper the Palace is housed in, where basically they're putting jacks under the building and raising it 30 feet in the air so they can then create retail space facing onto Times Square.
So underneath the theater, there will be stores and things?
Yeah, it's a $2.5 billion project, which, I don't know who's going into this space, but they're going to be charging a mint. It's like, by the way, that there's a box of mints. That'll cost you $35.
Right, I was going to say it's the most expensive bodega ever.
Yeah. That's it, exactly. But it also, I guess it includes that they're building the new entrance to the theater facing onto 47th Street and an 80-foot long marquee. But the weird part is, I guess, so SpongeBob clears out and begins its national tour. In fact, in September of this year, they started out. Their first stop was Schenectady, and I think they were in Boston early this fall. But anyway, they leave the theater because this project is going to be starting like instantaneously, and then in January, the whole project gets put on hold because evidently New York is forcing the construction team to put monitoring equipment in the buildings directly around the skyscraper. Supposedly because if, one of the jacks slips, it's like, hey, could you let the people next door know they're about to be crushed? So, but anyway, so I guess what I don't entirely understand here is this show that costs Nickelodeon anywhere, depending on who you talk to, it's $15 to $20 million to develop and produce. And again, it had to cut it shut, run in New York short because again, they were going into this theater and then they had to clear it for the skyscraper project. And here it is touring the country, and then they make this decision, no, we're going to do it live on television with the original cast. And it's like, I know this tour continues, the national tour, for another 3 or 4 months. Who's going to buy tickets now after they've seen it?
Yeah, I don't know. Did you watch the thing last night?
I did, and I have to say, I love your description of it. What was it again?
It felt like I had been trapped in Pee-wee's Playhouse since 1988, and this is the result. This is an alternate future where Pee-wee's Playhouse has never stopped and has just consumed us all. I thought the production was very interesting, but what a bizarre take on things, and how different I was reading about it afterwards. A different artist wrote different songs, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And on the other hand, I mean, let's face it, Ethan Slater, the gentleman who played SpongeBob on Broadway, and they actually brought him back for this filmed theater presentation. Have you ever seen SpongeBob quite so jacked in your life before? I mean, I don't like being in a world where SpongeBob could beat the crap out of me. But on the other hand, when you watch what he did in that show, well, of course he had to be jacked. The guy never stopped moving, never stopped climbing.
Yeah. The staging of it was very inventive, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But
oh, yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes when I go to a Broadway show, I get really itchy. And I think I don't know if I would have made it all the way through. But, I thought it was great on TV.
It was, and to give them credit to actually bring Tom Kenny in
that was
to
so
play.
Cool.
That was.
Yeah.
And a longtime fan of Tom. I'm happy to see him anywhere doing anything, but it was nice to have him come in as Patchy. And speaking of stuff that we've gotten to see just over the last week or so, Hair Love finally shows up online.
Yes.
Okay, so this one, for those folks you don't remember, this started off as a Kickstarter campaign, right?
Yes, and so it was not developed by Sony Animation Studios, but I think they helped finish it, and then they released it.
In front of Angry Birds, Angry Birds 2, which, by the way, you said you really, really enjoyed.
Yes, I would say, I don't know if the Blu-ray is out yet, but I got an advance copy. You should go pick up the Blu-ray. It's a lot of fun. The voice work is really great. It's just really funny and beautifully animated. So yeah, it was an interesting pairing though. Before
no, I get that. In fact, the story turned about 2/3 of the way through this. I don't know if that's exactly how I'd want to establish the tone going into Angry Birds 2.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a lovely short. I mean, Matthew A. Cherry, Everett Downing Jr., and of course, Bruce W. Smith just did an amazing job with this thing. And
yes.
As of right now, as far as I'm concerned, the Academy Awards race for this year's Best Animated Short really comes down to Pixar's Kit Bull and Hair Love. These two are just so beautifully done.
Yeah, I love both of those. I haven't watched all the Spark shorts yet on Disney Plus, but I wish that we could nominate one of the Forky Ask the Questions, because did you see this week's What is Love installment?
No.
Oh my God, Jim. It is a scream. And you will love it because Carol Burnett, Mel Brooks, and Carl Reiner are all in it, along with Betty White. It is it's really, really wonderful.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember they showed up for a 1/10 of a second in Toy Story 4 this summer. The toys in the back of the closet with Woody, right?
Yes. But now they have a chance to shine, Jim, and I think you were, as a lover of those comedians and that style, I think you're going to get a real kick out of it.
Speaking of which, just this morning, Mel Brooks was on CBS Sunday Morning. And again, just 93 years old, still a very, very funny guy. But the interesting thing, the entire segment was because there's an 8-film collection of Anne Bancroft's movies that is coming out this year. And Mel, in his usual style, turns to the camera and it's like, if you order it from Amazon right now, it's only $69. Pre-order it. But yeah, it was nice to see him as sharp as he was. Though, oddly enough, again, Mel never misses an opportunity to promote everything, and he supposedly got a much in the style of the producers in Young Frankenstein, a Broadway musical in the works for Blazing Saddles.
I've heard talk of this, but I have not gotten any updates.
Well, so again, he's 93. I applaud the effort. I wouldn't necessarily be camping out, in front of a theater.
I actually just got that. I got that box set in the mail though this week from my good friends at Shout Factory, and it is an awesome box set. And I will echo Mel's thoughts that you should definitely pre-order this thing because it's really great. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, we were just talking about shorts and the like. Just this week, in the coming week ahead, Disney is pushing, they're doing an event to help make folks aware of some of the effects work that's been done for Frozen 2. but they're also allowing folks like yourself to get a chance to finally see Myth, the Frozen Tale. It's their VR short.
Yes, and this is done by the same team that did Cycled, which we talked about on the show already, and I loved that short. So I'm very excited to see this. I think they had it at the premiere. I guess my invite was lost. I don't know, Jim. I don't want to speculate. But I'm finally going to get to do it this week, and I'm very excited.
Well, okay. We'll wait to hear what you have to say about Myth.
Okay.
But while we're talking about Frozen 2, the initial estimates for Frozen 2's third weekend at the box office, and to the surprise of absolutely no one, this was number one at the box office again, $34 million domestic. That actually compares well to how the original Frozen, likewise Moana, Coco, and Ralph Breaks the Internet did on their third weekend in general release.
But did you notice that the projections were higher on Friday for what this,
they were?
Yeah,
they were. Though you got to wonder whether they revised those based on what happened with Playmobil the movie, which grief. You've seen the same thing that I've seen, right? It's the fourth lowest opening weekend gross for a film domestically that's been out in over 2,000 theaters. I want to say, what was it, $670,000?
Yeah,
total?
well, I mean, the last time I looked, it was the third worst, so maybe it is now slightly less worse than that. But,
so.
Yeah. But from what I understand, like, there was not a lot of marketing behind this. It was an acquisition title for STX. It did similarly bad overseas. I think it only made like $26 million combined internationally, and STX only put $3 million of marketing behind it, which is like nothing. You saw those ads too for the $5 tickets.
Yeah. I mean,
I think clearly, that's a good idea, but I don't know what it didn't work, obviously.
Well, think about it. We've been watching, in fact, since Annexy. When they, I guess, that was where they held the world premiere, and word got bad almost immediately after that, and this film went from being released in August to pushed to November to now the first week of December, and the interesting thing that STX, I guess they rolled the dice with the thinking that, okay, if we push it to the first week of December, perhaps by then Frozen 2 will have burned out at the box office, or more to the point, parents who have extremely young children who are Playmobil fans, that they'll have seen Frozen 2. They'll be looking for something. And so let's put it there. And it's just, sometimes you roll the dice and people don't show up. Though, interesting thing to sort of pivot looking ahead here. Again, Frozen 2 has been number one at the box office for 3 weekends in a row. But face it, Drew, you and I both know that ends this coming weekend because Jumanji: The Next Level arrives in theaters Friday, December 13th. And then a week later, we've got episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And that's a 1-2 punch that's going to be hard to deal with. I mean...
Also, Jim, I'm going to throw this out there. Cats. We don't know what Cats is going to do.
This is very true.
I think they're trying to fill the Greatest Showman slot, of the musical, family musical that everybody can see, that everybody kind of underestimates. Yeah. But listen, Cats could be a contender. You know what I mean?
No. Absolutely. In fact, Nancy and I got the invite to go down to New York next week sometime to check this out. And it's just sort of like...
Jim will be seeing Cats on the same day. Isn't that exciting?
Oh, wow. Okay. I have to ask, though, look, I want to stress here, folks, that when Drew and I talk about box office, just because I speak with an authoritative baritone voice doesn't mean that I'm always right. I mean, for example, remember when we talked about Addams Family and how I was like, there's no way, after Halloween, the audience for this thing just goes away. I want to stress here that before we started recording today, I went over to Box Office Mojo just to check the numbers, and October 31st, it made $76 million. domestic, and looking at it today, it's at $96 million domestic. It made $20 million more during the period when I said there was no audience out there, for this thing. So I am wrong, and I have been wrong, and I will be wrong again. So that's like, when I look at, what Frozen 2 is facing right now, I that said, I can't help but think we're not going to see a repeat of what we saw in 2013 and 2014. I mean, remember, what was it? It was the first weekend in January of 2014 where, what was it? Frozen had been released for 6 weeks, 7 weeks at that point, and it had been number 2 at the box office, or excuse me, number 1 at the box office for its first 2 weekends in release, and then, sort of slid down the chart, and then suddenly, weekend of January, it's back at number 1 again, and and in fact, it beat out the second installment of Peter Jackson's Hobbit series, The Desolation of Smaug. So, I don't know. Do you think it has these sorts of links, or does Disney even care at this point?
I don't know. What? I mean, I love that you brought up Jumanji and Star Wars because, when Jumanji came out, nobody was really talking about it or had any kind of preconceived notions about it. And you remember that movie went and went and went.
No, and let's remember again, didn't it open the exact same weekend as The Last Jedi?
I think so, yeah.
And, what was fascinating for me is that, when all was said and done, Jumanji did $404 million domestic, whereas The Last Jedi did $620 million domestic, which, again, okay, you look at those numbers, one clearly won, except Jumanji only cost $90 million to make, whereas Disney, this far after the fact, is willing to admit, The Last Jedi was $317 million to produce. So, you can understand why they immediately pivoted and was like, yes, another Jumanji, absolutely, let's get going.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just that thing had legs that nobody expected.
Nobody. And this one looks like an even better movie. I thought the first one was fine, but this one looks a little bit more fun. I like the twist of it. And yeah, it'll be really interesting. I mean, on the subject of Frozen, I think the only thing that's really important is that they beat the first movie. And I don't know, I don't know if that's going to happen. You seem to, I think, be a little bit more optimistic than I am at this point. But, I don't know.
Look, what they're saying right now is that, if you combine what it's going to do stateside and what it's doing overseas, sometime between now and next weekend, this will, blow through the $1 billion worldwide barrier. That'll make it the 6th film this year that Disney has released that did that. And the funny thing is that everybody's already assuming that The Rise of Skywalker will do the exact same thing. And Disney will be the first studio in Hollywood history to have $7 billion worldwide earners. At this point, especially since that if you look at, for example, the overseas box office for Frozen and compare it to the overall overseas box office for the original Frozen, that film made $582 million in the winter of 2013, 2014. Today, the overseas box office, and let's face it, it's got weeks yet to run overseas. It's the exact same number. It's $582 million in overseas ticket sales. So this thing is clearly, even if domestically it peters out, this thing is still going to out-earn the original. It's a question of how much.
Yeah.
But again, facing the competition that it is in fact facing. But anyway, I mean, I guess to pivot back to Playmobil, the movie, in a weird sort of way, I feel really bad for Lino DeSalvo. I mean, he did so much great work for so many years at Disney.
He was on the original Frozen.
He was, and I'm kind of surprised he didn't show up in the Paul Hirsch book, because he spent a couple of years working at the Secret Lab on various projects over there. So, and face it, nobody gets up in the morning and I want to make a movie that it's the 4th lowest grossing domestic.
Right.
Everyone wants to make a film that's not only entertaining but successful at the box office, and you just kind of got a feel also for Well, look, Kelly Asbury, who, was the gentleman behind Ugly Dolls, which was the other STX release. That,
Yeah.
And that one, it cost 40 something to make, and only $20 million of tickets domestic and 12 overseas. So that didn't even come close to turning a profit. So, I don't know. I just feel bad for these guys. I've actually gotten to interview Kelly a couple of times, and just seems like a decent guy. It's just sort of like, but this is a tough business, and you got to hope that, like you said, you want to be in a situation where the studio is putting up what does $3 million of promotion get you these days?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably get you those Instagram ads that say you can buy a ticket for $5. I mean, it's not a lot of oomph. These are hundreds of millions of dollars are behind these promotions,
Yeah. And especially these days where, it fascinates me to see the sort of buying that people will do ad-wise and where they place their ads and in which particular ads and that sort of thing. So... Anyway, okay, so we were talking a bit about SpongeBob earlier. In fact, they were hyping as part of the SpongeBob musical thing last night that during the 7 o'clock window, all of This Week and Next, Nickelodeon is doing its own holiday programming block. And among these is they're going to be rerunning the SpongeBob Christmas, which oddly enough, it was the 26th episode of the 8th season of the show, debuted back in November 2012. And I always thought this was a standalone show. That you've seen this one, the stop motion thing that was done by Screen Novelties?
Yes.
I have to say, I loved this thing. If only because it had my favorite new holiday song, that heard in decades. It's the "Don't Be a Jerk, It's Christmas." But yeah, that's...
When is this rerunning, though, Jim? We need to tell people.
Well, that's the thing. I have been trying to track that down, and Nickelodeon's schedule, again, the very fact that they don't break it out as a holiday special, the way they list it is that it's the 26th episode of season 8. I now have to go back through that entire programming block, that 7 o'clock programming block for the next week or so.
You'll never believe this, Jim, but it is actually playing right now. Right this instant.
Oh, the sacrifices we make for you folks. I would stop this podcast now and go watch that, but is on the other hand, West Coast or East Coast feed? Because that gives me an opportunity.
Yeah, you could make it, Jim.
Oh, cool. All right, then we'll definitely. All right, this is what we're going to do. Because again, that's what I love about this special is it does that weird Venn diagram thing where it's a classic SpongeBob episode. In fact, the villain of the holiday special is Plankton, but it's still very much in the style of Rudolph. And speaking of Rudolph, when we get back from commercial break, we're going to talk about some of the changes that were made to the Rudolph holiday special over the years.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
And we're back. Okay, so like I said, top of the show, we're recording this on December 8th, 17 days of Christmas, folks. And if you're shopping for the animation fan on your list, Drew came across this great bit of news in regard to Studio Ghibli.
Yes, they are actually going to be putting out all of the movies on digital HD for the first time ever. And you and I are very interested in this because a few weeks ago when they were talking about how it was coming, this was even before it was coming to HBO Max, they said we're just releasing them physically, and we're releasing them in rep houses, and that's it. You'll see it on the big screen, or you'll buy a physical copy. And then it was announced that they're coming to HBO Max, and now it's announced that you can buy them digitally, which is actually great. And you can buy them in either the English dub or Japanese formats. I feel like you should be able to get both on one purchase, but that's just
I
me.
agree.
You know?
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of people are doing their like best of the 2010s, and I feel like The Wind Rises is definitely something that needs to get a rewatch before that you can make that list, because I think it's an absolutely beautiful movie. And I know
but that one's not going to be in the pile for
Oh,
this
it's
year's
not?
Einstein. Well, no, I'm looking at the press release here. They mentioned it'll be available for digital purchase in the third quarter of 2020, which also kind of seems nuts to me, because isn't the HBO Max debut in the spring of next year?
Yeah, it should be there by March. Yeah, that's really weird.
That is weird.
That's bummed out. That makes me bummed out. I have all the Blu-rays, but you know how hard it is to track down anything in your giant library of films.
Yes.
Give me a week, I'll find it. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure I've got the Studio Ghibli stuff under my copy of Who Discovered Roger Rabbit, which I've been promising Drew.
That's right.
For months.
Although
now.
I did do that article, and it's up on Collider right now. If you want to know why Who Framed Roger Rabbit being on Disney Plus is a minor miracle, check it out. It goes through the whole thing, and I found some interesting things digging through. Did you know that a song from Who Discovered Roger Rabbit was released in like 2008 on some Disney covers album?
It was. This only happens in the movies.
Yeah.
And who was it? Now, Menken wrote the song. Who did the lyrics? Was it Glenn Slater or?
I mean, judging by that period, it should have been Glenn Slater, but I'm not sure if we know exactly.
Yeah, it's a great tune, and but yeah, it just again kind of breaks your heart that that they were this far along, and that it just didn't happen. So, but again, again, when you work the set of Street, when you talk about animation, you have to be used to disappointments, or more to the fact that you look at something. Well, why did that change? What happened there? And in fact, this brings me to again on our last show, we did way too much talking about Rankin Bass and how people got the rights and that sort of thing. And Bernie was nice enough to send us a note to the effect of, hey, Jim and Drew, sending this quick message after watching Rankin Bass's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas special on Freeform. Since I watched it live, I was overjoyed to see that the channel restored the long-lost Peppermint Mine scene with Yukon Cornelius and a final line from Donner and Clarice. I also admire Freeform was able to keep this special in its original length. No speed-up or shortened versions of We're a Couple of Misfits and We Are Santa's Elves, unlike CBS. If this special someday gets moved from CBS to NBC, then I hope that they keep the special in its original form and keeping the Peppermint Mine scene, Santa visiting the Misfit toys. Anyway, happy holidays from Bernie. Now, for those of you who don't know what Bernie is talking about here, when Rudolph originally aired on NBC, by the way, this thing, oh boy, did it have an ideal time slot. The first time Rudolph was aired on NBC, it started at 5:30 in the afternoon, on a Sunday. All right. I mean, and I remember this because literally my family was in Boston going to see the Christmas lights, and I had seen. And I'm what, 5, 6, and the cover of the TV guide had the Burl-Ives Snowman and the Rudolph on it. And it was like, I was an animation fiend even at that point. So my family's in Boston trying to look at the Christmas lights on the Boston Common, and I'm literally nudging my family, yeah, this is wonderful. Can we get back in the car and go home? Rudolph is going to be on at 5:30. Let's go. Move. It's like, we'd like to stay long enough for it to be dark to actually look at the lights, Jim. And it's like, screw the lights. Rudolph is going to be on. And we did. We literally ran in the door and got to see the first airing of this thing. And what Bernie's talking about here is the original ending of the show. You remember how, if you remember watching Rudolph, Yukon is constantly throwing his pick in the air and, then licking it, and it's nothing, because he's looking for Peppermint Mine.
Yes.
And in the original airing of the special, there was a scene where Yukon is standing outside of Santa's castle, and he throws, the pick lands to the ground. He licks it. Oh my God! It's the biggest peppermint strike in the history of the Pacific. It is. So his story gets wrapped up. But the interesting thing is, after this episode, and remember, it wasn't a holiday special initially. It was just an episode of the General Electric Fantasy Hour. After this aired, NBC got hit with all of these letters from families who'd viewed the thing to the effect of, oh my God, my kids were traumatized because Santa reneged on his promise. He didn't go to rescue the toys at the on the Island of Misfit Toys. They got left behind. And so the interesting thing is, someone at the network actually turned around and gave this out to Rankin Bass and we'd like to re-air this next year, but you're going to have to address this issue. So the whole scene with the toys on the island and the little doll with it, I don't have any dreams left to dream, that was all animated in early 65 or thereabouts, and then dropped back into the show for the second airing in
Jim,
December.
you're blowing my mind now. I had no idea about any of this.
But at the same time, just this whole concept of people being triggered in today's age, the song "We're a Couple of Misfits" that both Hermie and Rudolph do separate versions of it, and then in the show again, the 64 version, they sang it together as a duet. But same thing, they also got notes from parents to the effect of Rudolph and Hermie aren't misfits. They're good characters, and they wrote a brand new song for them called "Fame and Fortune," and also reanimated with the original dolls for this sequence and dropped it into the show. And the weird part of it is GE also sold a soundtrack album. For $1, you could send off and get a copy of, and all the songs from the show. So for years, people were like, well, wait a minute. I know that Hermie and Rudolph, sing "We're a Couple of Misfits" because it's on the album. And it's what is this Fame and Fortune crap? And it was only when the special finally came out in 1993 on VHS that they restored the song. But then the weird part is the Peppermint Mine footage didn't show up till 2018, 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. I have to admit, I'm just sort of fascinated by that. I've had a fascination for the special since I first saw that image on the TV guide back in '64. But again, it's sort of pivot to my daughter Alice, who, from my generation, because like The Wizard of Oz, Rudolph only came on once a year. It was a big deal. But for, people of my daughter's generation where, well, it's on Blu-ray and it's also, I can watch it on the network or I can watch it on Freeform. It's like, what is the big deal? It's a holiday special. And for folks like myself, it was like, you knew it was the holiday season because you were crying because the little doll couldn't get off the island. And speaking of things that have made me cry on television, oh my God, the ads for Togo, the new Disney Plus thing with William Dafoe. If I can't make it through the 2-minute long ad for this thing.
Oh my God, Jim, you have no idea. You have no idea. I could not get home quick enough to hug my dog after watching that movie. It is wonderful. It comes out on December 20th. Mm-hmm. It's based on a true story. It actually has a connection to animation because Balto, which we remember as the I think, was that an Amblin-mation project?
That was an Amblin. In fact, the weirdest thing is that if you go to New York Central Park, there is, in fact, a Balto statue there.
Yeah.
I came across it one day wandering the park, and it's like, holy crap, this is real.
Yeah, but the sort of untold story is that was a relay race. There were these sick kids in Alaska, and they were trying to get the medicine to them. And it was 5 or 6 dogs that contributed to this. And Balto was the one that ended the race. He was the one that actually brought the medicine to the children, and he ran a lot. I mean, it was a long distance, but the distance that Togo did was like 260 miles or something insane. And that's the story that we finally get in this movie, and it is devastating. I mean, I was so badly shaken up that publicists were hugging me as I was leaving the theater. So let me just put that out there. I am perfectly comfortable admitting this because everyone else in the theater was just in tears. So I'm man enough to admit it, Jim. You know.
Okay. I have to admit, I enjoy a movie that does that. Don't get me wrong, I love to laugh, but at the same time, I love a film that moves me emotionally, and this brings me to Onward, which by the way, just this past weekend, down at the Brazilian equivalent of Comic-Con, CCXP, Dan
Jim, we
Scanlon.
should have been down there in São Paulo.
Yeah, I know. But again, I need a few more weeks to get ready for bathing suit weather,
right?
Or possibly another 10 years. But anyway, so he was on stage talking. In fact, the interesting thing, isn't this the same story he shared? I want to say at the D23 Expo in 2017 about how this project actually, or the impetus of this project, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he said that at São Paulo, he said it, it's a really personal film for me. When I was a year old, my father passed away and my brother was 3, and we have no memory of him. And he played that clip at D23. Mm-hmm. You were at that D23, right?
Yeah, I was. To explain what Drew's talking about, I guess, they were in their teens and they were talking with, I want to say, their dad's sister, that sort of thing. And she mentioned, hey, I think I have a recording with me and your dad on it, and that they'd never heard their dad's voice.
And I think it was only one word. I think he just said, hello or hi or something, and so that idea of being able to reconnect with a father that's passed on is what drives all of Onward, really. I love the Brazilian name, by the way.
Do you want to take a swing at that?
Well, we can. It's translated to Two Brothers: A Fantastic Journey, which
there we go.
Which is great.
Okay.
It's great.
Okay. Well, I guess this is we've kept this under wrap for months now, so it's time to finally out you, Drew. That one of the reasons that both Drew and I are very excited about this Pixar film is Drew actually got to write the making of book.
I did.
And this is through Chronicle, right?
It's through Chronicle. It'll be out on March 3rd. So I think that's the same weekend the movie comes out. So Go see the movie. Go pick up the book. The book is beautiful. And
more to the point, the book is currently available for pre-order.
It is available on Amazon.
Yes.
So if you want, you could do a thing like when the Star Wars toys weren't out for Christmas, and you could just have a little IOU. You could do that for your friend or your family member that's looking forward to Onward. Just print out a cover of the book, put it in an envelope, give it to them, and pre-order it. But it's very much worth your money. It's a beautiful book. I can't say a lot about it still, obviously because the movie hasn't come out yet either, so I don't want to spoil anything. But it was an amazing process, and the filmmakers are all amazing, brilliant, and I'm so happy that Dan Scanlon gets to do an original story because someone else.
It's Monsters University.
Yeah, he did Monsters, right? But he was not even the first director on Monsters University. I've never found out who was, but he was brought in, and I love Monsters University. It's one of my favorite Pixar movies. So this was a real thrill for me. Jim and I obsessively collect these books, so it's gonna be a stain on his bookshelf that one of them will have my name on it.
No. I've actually been talking to Nancy about the effect of, we live in such a cluttered house, we don't have room for a coffee table. I'm going out and getting a coffee table just so I can put your book on it.
Thank God.
I have this weird tangential pride that that you got picked for this project and this book is coming out. I mean, it just I cannot explain to you why. I think I'm actually more excited about this book than you are.
Oh well, good. But I mean, the amount of ideas and things that they came up. I mean, for those that maybe don't know that much about Onward, it's about sort of a suburban fantasy land where magic has kind of gone away. And so these two brothers find a spell to bring back their father, and it doesn't quite go the right way. And you'll see it in the trailer, but the amount of amazing ideas, the things that they came up with for this movie, Jim, that are not in the movie, but that are in the book, will blow your mind. It is amazing. This journey of making this movie was really fantastic, and I'm so glad to be a small part in sharing that journey with everybody next year.
No, again, can't wait to read that. And speaking of which, though, just this past week, I've got my copy of The Making of Klaus. And again, it's another thing, if you're looking for something fun to watch this holiday season, head on over to Netflix.
Is it out, or did you get a pre?
No, it's out.
Oh, okay.
I literally, went to my local bookstore, and it's like, God, hey, they're there. Okay, cool. So, at some point, I actually have to start shopping for other people. I mean, it is the holiday season. But yeah, it's happy to add this to my library. And more to the point, very much looking forward to The Art of Onward. And
Good.
Again, got to get a decent coffee table between now and then. So, but if people can't wait to be entertained by Drew Taylor, till Onward finally, The Art of Onward finally arrives in bookstores, they can find you elsewhere online other than on this podcast.
Yeah,
course,
I mean,
right?
I'm back to the freelance life, so you can follow me on Twitter for whatever the latest thing is from wherever I'm writing, but also you can listen to Light the Fuse, which is the Mission Impossible podcast. We've got a great two-part interview this week with this great British critic and filmmaker, and then closing out the year, we're going to have a three-part Paul Hirsch interview. Once again, the master, our favorite, our favorite author of this year.
I'm sorry, I've already flogged enough books for this show, but again, cannot say enough nice things about a long time ago in a cutting room far, far away. That's in fact, I just sent a copy of that to our pal Danzy, who, by the way, is on his way back from Orlando right now.
What a jerk! What a jerk! I cannot believe he flew. He said, "You know what? I wasn't invited to the media event. I'm going to go down opening weekend," and he just went. And you know what? I love him for that. He is very type A, and he got the job done. I'm going to see him next week at the premiere of Skywalker, so I'm excited for that. We'll send you a picture, Jim.
Okay, I do want to see the two of you together there, but he had all sorts of nice things to say about Rise of the Resistance, which again seems to be Disney's Hagrid's Magical Motorbike venture, but hopefully they're getting a handle on the operational side of things.
Listen, when it opens out here, Jim, it'll be flawless. It'll be perfect. God willing.
Okay. Well, okay. In addition to the podcast you're listening to here, and again, the one I do with Dan Z, looking at Lucasfilm, we have Disney Dish with Len Testa.
Wait, did those musical episodes get cleared yet?
We are, at this point, I think we are inches away from, and it's breaking my heart because Aaron did all of this great work, hiring musicians, getting people together so we could hear these Buddy Baker songs that, only existed in manuscript form.
Yeah.
But again, Disney legal, it's all a rights clearance issue, and we may have to literally go back and pull the music out of these episodes. I mean, the stories are still great. The stories of, how the Energy Pavilion was almost hosted by Jiminy Cricket, or God help us, the version of the American Adventure Pavilion that Mark Davis initially worked on, where it celebrated like backyard barbecues and, dressing up for Halloween and that sort of thing. And how, Disney management at that point, or the WED management was like, no, we don't want this. Mark, they basically forced him into retirement because they made him feel like he was out of step with, what they wanted in the Disney parks. And then the ironic thing is, for the next 5 years, they keep bringing him back as a consultant because, especially when it came to Tokyo, it's like, well, what do you want? Well, that stuff that Mark Davis designed, we'd really love that,
Right.
But yeah, I'm hoping, because we've got like 4 of those.
Oh, I've listened to all of them, Jim, and they are amazing. And I really do hope that they, see the light of day because they're really special, and those will be Bandcamp exclusives, I believe. Right?
They will. Wonderfully skilled flogging there, Drew. Thank you. Okay. So what else we got? We got Marvelous Disney that I do with Aaron Adams, the gentleman who edits a lot of the podcasts here. We have Universal Joint with Dustin Fuse, and I apologize, folks. I Want That show is going to be on hold for a little bit. Michelle's dealing with some family stuff and some health issues, but we may knock out a quick Christmas gift guide that probably will mention the art of Onward, sometime in the coming week or two. Anyway, I'll tell you what, if you enjoyed listening to today's show, if you could myself and Drew a favor, head over to iTunes and not only rate and recommend Fine Tuning, but also put in a plug for Light the Fuse. It's a great show about the Mission Impossible films and TV show. On the other hand, if you really, really, really like what we do here, if you get out our Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be incredibly helpful. And I guess that's it for now. And now, if you excuse me, I must scurry to a television and see if I can catch, the last moments of the It's a SpongeBob Christmas thing on Nickelodeon.
Go, Jim, go.
Right. Till then, folks, we'll talk to you soon. Okay? Bye.